Good morning here from Los Angeles, Valerie Milano, the senior editor of the Hollywood Times and also with Aspiring magazine. And I'm so glad to have our guest here today. I'm going to have him introduce himself. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I am Spencer Cohen. I am the writer and director of The Compatriots.
Wonderful, Spencer. Thank you again for being with us and congratulations on the compatriots. Can you start by sharing how the idea for this story first came to you, please?
Sure, we can start all the way back when I was in middle school and I met my best friend Alberto. We played basketball together, we played baseball together, really great friends. And it wasn't until senior year in high school that I found out he was a dreamer. So he was brought to this country at a young age and didn't have the same rights that I did. And it wasn't until 2016 when I graduated from film school that I said, okay, how do we talk about this? He was still struggling with this. DACA was able to give him some sort of temporary protected status in this country, but it wasn't a pathway to citizenship, and there was no pathway to citizenship. And what we decided was that our favorite movies growing up were buddy comedies, movies like I Love You Man's, Superbad, Step Brothers. And we said, okay, how do we talk about this issue, but how do we also make it a movie that we want to watch? And 10 years after we first started those conversations, the film's finally coming out, and I'm really excited about it.
Yes, yes. The friendship between Javi and Hunter is the emotional anchor of the film. What do you hope audiences will take away from their journey of reconnection?
Yeah, it at the end of the day, this is, like you said, a film about friendship and a film about how far are you willing to go to protect the ones that you love in your life. And I thought that was the core tenet of the film for a long time was Javi and Hunter. And I was really thrilled how that's been able to connect with so many people. It's really important to be able to, if audiences don't see a friend or have a friend like Javi, that they can look to Javi in order when they start hearing things about Dreamers and DACA in the news. I wanted him to feel like your best friend.
Yeah, I've already spoken with Raphael and I'm going to be speaking with Dennis later today. I'm just so thrilled to get to meet them. Yeah, so Raphael Silva and Dennis Shepard bring so much life to Javi and Hunter. What was the casting process like, and what made them the right fit for these roles?
Yeah, the casting process was super fun. We used Boston casting. We shot the film in Massachusetts, and we were able to really get a whole bunch of different actors to submit self-tapes to us. We were able to narrow that down and do a chemistry read, which people hadn't done for a while because it was just on the tail end of COVID. So I was able to have Dennis, Rafa, and Caroline all kind of swinging in and out of this room, being able to read scenes. We had other actors flying in, reading scenes, figuring out where the best chemistry was. And it was pretty obvious to me fairly early on. We ran this for a while, but I was like, ooh, Rafa is incredible, and Dennis plays so well off of him. And it was a funny story, and Rafa might have told you already, but he came to our table read, which we had a few weeks before we even started the casting process. And someone had sent him our little casting call that we sent out through some of the Facebook groups. And he submitted. I was like, obviously, this guy's great. And all the other actors in the table read were great, but it wasn't really a way for me to cast the film. I just wanted to hear people say my words out loud. And I just, every time he said a line, I was like, this guy's amazing. We need this guy to submit a self tape. And what I hadn't known at the time was that he technically already had submitted a self tape. We got it like a few days later, and I ran some other hobbies just to make sure. But obviously, he brought so much to the role. He's super authentic. And it was basically like, somehow I knew him and I knew he existed and he lived not that far away from myself, and I wrote the role for him because he was incredible.
Did you draw on any personal friendships or experiences when shaping the dynamic between the two leads?
Yeah, actually, it's funny. A lot of the story at this point, for the 10 years since I started it with Alberto, has shifted pretty far from who we are as people and as characters. I've put so much of myself And that's my writing process is every single bit, every single character in this movie has a bit from me. So I constantly am writing things down, funny stories throughout my life and quips. A lot of the like relationship humor comes from like jokes that my wife and I have had. The toothbrush bit was a real thing that happened with my wife and I at an Airbnb, and I said, what is more of a relationship aspect than like potentially sharing a toothbrush with somebody? And at the same time, one of my producers told me that when her mother was interviewing to become a citizen, they asked her what her partner's toothbrush color was. And I said, I don't know what my wife's toothbrush, I don't even know what my own toothbrush color is. Like, how is that supposed to be a question that they have to answer? And yeah, every single one of these characters has a bit of myself in it.
Were there any memorable behind the scenes challenges or surprises that shaped the final version of the film?
Yeah, when you're shooting an indie film and you're shooting 105 pages in 20 days, and we actually did 10-hour days because I wanted to make sure that our crew was well rested, fed, like happy. Most of the time, they're shooting. I was just talking to my AD, and I think she said she's on a project now that's shooting 16-hour days. So crazy stuff in this industry. So I wanted to make sure everyone was safe. I wanted to make sure everyone was excited to come back to work that next day and wasn't needing to drink 30 cups of coffee and blasting music while they drive home to make sure they make it home safe. So we shot 105 pages in those 10-hour days over 20 days, and there were it was really smooth. And I'm not just saying that, like it was really smooth. There was a few things, and funny enough, they like somehow added even more to the story. One thing in particular was we one of the hero outfits of Rafa's ended up in a duffel bag that was used as props and didn't end up at a location one day. And we were able to just in 35 minutes figure out, okay, Raf's just going to be in his white tank top underneath, and then we're going to work this whole aspect in of how the sweatshirt comes off of him. And while those moments are stressful, it was fun. Like it felt in some kind of perverse way. I keep saying that it felt athletic. Like it brought me back to my days of, oh, a ground ball's hit to you. Like you have to make a split second decision, like what base you're going to throw the ball to. And those are the kind of things that like keep your brain just like going and going. And I just had such an amazing crew to really help me along the way solve those problems that inevitably will pop up. And I'm sure there are thousands that my producer kept from me that she could probably speak more to. But no, yeah, it was really a smooth, wonderful process.
Now I want to see the film again just so I can think about what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, the film is being released, Spencer, across the US and Canada with international markets to follow. What excites you most about sharing this story with global audiences?
Yeah, it couldn't come at a more relevant
Yes.
time in our country. And something we kept saying throughout the whole process, the whole 10-year process, was like, I hope we don't have to make this movie. I hope something changes. And I hope the 6 years of me writing this script, the 7 years of me writing this script, like all that work goes out the window, or even in production, or even in editing. I hope this becomes a period piece. And we've wound up in an environment where that's not the case and where it's even worse than I probably could have anticipated. And I just want everyone to know that these are your compatriots. These are your nurses. These are your teachers. These are your first responders. These are your neighbors. And they're all around us. And there's millions of them who have been here for an incredible period of time. And all they do is add to our fabric of our nation. Something that I've been thinking about a lot recently is that so many of us, we can't, it doesn't take very long to trace our lineage back to a different country. And my ancestors, they came from Central Europe in the 1920s, avoiding anti-Semitism. And in the 1940s, the late 1930s, like the US shut off that spigot because they decided there were too many Jews coming into the country. And we all know what happened after that. I Every time people seem to get here, it takes a generation or two, and then we decide we don't want the next people to come aboard. And that's not what this country was built on. And for any international audiences, like I think people hear these stories peripherally, and I'm sure every single country deals with their own immigration issues as well. But I want them to know who these people are, who these humans are at a human level. And like I said, if they don't know a personal relationship with a person who is going through this, then they can look to this story and pretty accurately say, this is what these people go through.
Yeah, because we know immigration and LGBTQIA plus issues resonate differently in different regions, and
Mhm.
we hope that this will connect audiences everywhere. So thank you so much for this story. And you're right, it is coming at a perfect time. So tell our readers and our viewers how they can find out more about you and more about the Compatriots. Your website, social media, what?
Yeah, so we have a website, thecompatriotsfilm.com. You can read more about why we made the film, all the film festivals we went to. We were on a year-long film festival tour, all the awards that we've won, and you can follow The Compatriots Film on Instagram, TikTok. I'm trying to do more TikToks, but
We are.
Facebook. And yeah, we've been posting like fun behind the scenes stuff of stuff that we've captured and just really stuff that amplifies the story and the message and how much fun we had making this film because we really did have a good time making this film. And I think that really shows through in the final product that people are going to see coming out. I don't know when this airs, but the film is out on September 16th. Go and rent it. I'm sure when this comes out, it will be available. So, yeah, I just want everyone to know that we're in this together and this stories like this are stories that we need to amplify.
Yes, Spencer, we are in this together. We're the Hollywood Times today, aspiringmagazine.com. The Hollywood Times official is our YouTube channel, and thank you so much for bringing this to our attention even more
Yeah, thank you so much.
today. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.